I always told my psychiatrist I need the world to stop. And the world stopped March 2020. I had time to think about things that I never had time to think about. Came to the realization that success is about getting to that proverbial mountaintop, the the gold medal stand, the whatever.
Mm.
What happens when you get there? You do it again, and then again. At what point do you realize maybe like the juice isn't worth the squeeze? And for me, when the world stopped, I realized the juice wasn't worth the squeeze.
We live in a complex and ever-changing world, a place that is maybe harder than ever to successfully navigate. The answer is surely to be brave, but it's also to seek and be open to guidance. Mentors are the one consistent through line in the lives of all accomplished people, myself included. So welcome to Mentor Buffet, a feast for those, like me, curious about who helped the most successful among us succeed. David Chang is a restaurateur and media entrepreneur. He's opened so many of his own restaurants in the Momofuku franchise. He's written best-selling books. Over his career, David has basically done it all. And in the past few years, he's learned to depart from his obsession with success and connect with what's actually important to him in his life. This was a wild conversation that I'll be absorbing for a long time. Here it is, me with David Chang.
The restaurants used to be like life and death to me. Cooking used to be life and death to me.
Mm-hmm.
And as hyperbolic as that seems, like that's sort of how I approached it, the intensity and the seriousness of it all. Growing up can be a shock to the system sometimes.
Yeah. I obviously used to feel that way about sports,
Well, it's
right?
that competitive nature, right? I was so competitive. And I think that I like in cooking and the desire to be the best. Very similar to competition in sports, and having played a lot of competitive sports when I was younger.
Yep.
It's you win or you don't win. And don't win's fine, but the goal is you got to win, right?
Right.
Losing is great if you internalize it to use it as fuel to win. And winning in restaurants is winning in business. And business means, paying the bills, paying all the employees. It could also mean winning awards, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
being at the top of your game all the time, which means, this sense of winning. And then you realize, like, how important is it, And then you chase something so intensely for so long, you wonder, how could I exist without that chase?
Right.
Right. And it doesn't mean I don't care about it anymore. I do, but it was actually a singular focus, right? And it was also really selfish, you know, um, and also sort of like just sort of not necessarily meaningless, but sometimes I think I can't believe I cared about it that much. I played competitive golf when I was younger, and I remember as a kid, like, I can't imagine my life without this sport.
Oh, wow.
And now it's like, I don't really care about it. When I play, do I get super competitive? Sure. But I also realize the disconnect. Just because I
Yeah.
think that I can doesn't mean that I can, And more than anything now, if I try to play golf today, I can't play like I used to play. So it's a reminder of age and transition. And the funny thing about getting older as I turn 47 is you still think you can do everything. Just as I'm sure you think you can still run as fast as I used to run
If I put in the work.
if you put in the work. But at some point, you can still think when you're 80 years old and hope you live forever, but you can't. You can still mentally think that you're running at the age of 20 and have the same goals, but physically there's a disconnect, and that just happens. You have to really embrace the suck. You gotta eat shit. You gotta know that all of that discomfort, that pain, all those early hours, everything that you're doing, I'm doing it because I'm gonna work harder. I'm gonna be up earlier, train later than everyone else because that's gonna give me my advantage. Most people, why would they want to be in a constant state of discomfort?
Why did you?
Because I wanted to fucking win.
Why did you want to win?
Because I want to prove people wrong, you know? And mostly it's just like, you forget why I'm even doing this. You know what I mean? It's like, why am I, why? Because winning is so ephemeral.
What are you trying to tell me?
Maybe winning and getting what you want isn't actually what you want. Be careful of how much you want to accumulate of something because you're always going to be in the need of more, want more, desire more. Be concerned with what you don't have. And I do think it's very Buddhist, but it's clearly it's very true. Is maybe we need to be spending more time, the balance. And I'm not trying to say you shouldn't be hyper competitive and push yourself, but at the same time, the balance really is how do you desire like for nothing as well, and be present. And I was just talking on my own pod. I was talking to Anoop, who's running this great restaurant in Brooklyn, Anoop Pilarasati, Strange Delight. And, I feel that he has done something I told him not to, open a restaurant in Fort Greene, and it's doing extremely well. But part of I didn't want him to do it is it's so fucking hard. And there's a lot of suffering involved with operating a restaurant and a restaurant that it's doing well. And the burden of success that comes with it. And the restaurant getting rave reviews, people love it. And I told him, I wish, I understand, right? Like, it's not about the wins, right? It's not about the great reviews and the overly satisfied customers. It's about the people that don't have a good time. It's not about the winning of a race. It's the races you lose that really scar you, right?
Because once you have that success, you are like defending it.
Yeah, I hate fucking losing. I hate losing way fucking more than I like winning. And basically I was trying to tell him, like, I don't think you should lose that feeling. It sucks. Just try to appreciate the wins while you have them too.
So you feel like, because you're a role model to a lot of people, you feel this like draw now to like prevent people from suffering in the way that you did in that industry, suffering by approaching winning and losing the way you did.
I love him like my little brother. And it's the same thing. It's like the worst thing you can do is try to tiger parent and to predict, oh, you shouldn't do this. And I told him, you shouldn't open a restaurant. It's going to suck for you. He still did it. And, I'm so happy that he's doing well. But at the same time, it's like maybe the only way to learn is to actually get hurt, right? And, I think about my kids, theoretically at least, like when they're learning to walk, it's such an amazing achievement when they figure it out. But like the last thing you want them to do is, every step, it's a new endeavor. Walking up the stairs, walking down the stairs, making sure they don't fall and hit the table. Yeah. You don't want them to like bang their head on the table or fall down a couple stairs. You don't want them to get bumps and bruises, break a bone. These are horrible things. Nobody wants your kid to feel that. But maybe the selfish thing to do is to interject yourself in a way to prevent them from feeling that. And if you truly love something and want something, the best for somebody is you just have to be there for them when they do fall down, and mitigate the scenario to some degree. And that's really hard to do.
Yeah. I think that's just like what it is to be a good friend and a parent and a lover probably too. Because you can't like you're not there to like prevent your partner from feeling pain either, or your mentees or your kids or anyone really. but I guess you're just there. Um, maybe it's just we need spaces to fall safely because it's not like you don't want to be so far off that you're like outside the sandbox, right? Like you want them falling within a sandbox, if that's the metaphor we're using, right? Or in the playground, right? They're not just like free fall, right? But falling safely is the right way to like basically be in each other's spaces, especially when we think we know more than someone,
Right.
which you, as you said earlier, most of the time we might, but there's that small percentage that one, we might not. Maybe those lovers end up together. And two, it's their life to live. You're around people all the time who seem to know something, right? Whether it's the people in the culinary world, people in the sports world. Did you, like, what was your relationship to other people during that time, given that you wanted to win, given that you wanted to be good? How did you take in information?
Well, I still do it, but I think at the time, I started cooking relatively late after college, graduated 22, got undergrad. And this is before cooking, again, was cool, right? We're talking 99, 2000. But, and that means whatever field you're going to, you want to be surrounded by people that are superior at that thing than you are. You want to know the spectrum of good to bad, mediocre to great. So that could be, I don't know, like cooking is New York or LA or Paris or San Sebastian, Tokyo. There's only a handful of places. Music could be LA or, if you're a runner, where are you living?
Oregon.
Yeah. Right? Or I'm sure there's a handful of places if you're a runner, right? So doesn't mean it's impossible, but it's important.
Where you are matters. The environment. You want to be in a place where people are better than you. That's like hands down.
Hands down.
For sure with sports too. For sure with anything.
It's osmosis through being surrounded by the people on a day-to-day basis. When you see their habits of excellence, you see exactly what they're doing. I start asking, why is this person that's X so much better than Y? I did enough homework and enough research to know where I could thrive, to learn what I wanted to learn. And at the time, I wanted to learn about New American cuisine, and that was under Tom Colicchio, Gramercy Tavern in New York, and then Tom opened up Craft. And then you need to know, like the lay of the land. I knew where every cook that worked at Craft, where they worked before. I knew like their stats, I also knew that I was not good enough to get into that restaurant because I was just really starting out. I really worked at one other or two other restaurants before that. So I had to work there. I need to be close to that. So I answered phones.
Yep.
I was cooking at Mercer Kitchen, but that was different. It was good, but I'm just like, you got to be careful of working because it looks good and it has the right name.
Okay, so that's really interesting to me because there's a lot. I was just at Dartmouth this past week and I was mentoring kids and they were very concerned about how their majors were going to look to people. And I was like, why are you doing, like, you're here to learn. You are paying money to learn. You're not here so that somebody else sees what you've studied. Like, it was all backwards. And it seems like you were there because it was a shoe that was one size too big, not 10 sizes too big. And you were going to actually learn what you wanted to learn.
And you can learn at a lot of different places, but you got to find the place that you're going to benefit the most that's still going to challenge you. And it's not always the position, right? Like at Mercer Kitchen, I was working garde manger and I was working a lot of hours, but I wasn't learning anything.
And how did you learn answering phones? Was it because you were seeing everything happening?
I was looking at the food that was taking place. I was looking at the intensity of the people that were there.
So you'd be standing there and you'd be...
I come down for family meal and I saw, right? And I just could sense that there was a different approach. There was a lot of people there that were great teachers.
Yeah.
It was also not an established restaurant, just open. Mercer had already been around 4 years.
So you were watching it evolve right in front of you.
Yeah. And when I say get as close as you can, as close as I could get, and slowly built up enough courage to be like, I want to work for free. I want to intern. I answered phones, worked at Mercer Kitchen, did another job on the weekends. And sometimes your mentors aren't the most famous people. They're the people that teach you something.
Yeah.
teach you how to think about something, critical thought. So that's what happened at Craft. Like, they taught me a tremendous amount. If I asked a question, they would teach me. If I fucked up, they would let me know, you know, and I fucked up a lot. When you're being mentored, you may not realize you're being mentored.
Mm-hmm.
And that still happens today, you know, being told how to do something, or being told that what you're doing is inadequate, or being told that you've made mistakes. It sucks. Being taught by somebody is uncomfortable. I think the idea is that it's easy. It's like almost like a download of information into your head.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like that. At least for me, it wasn't. It's a battle of, do I like this or do I hate this?
Right. You're saying that to be mentored is to not only receive information, but it's to process it in a way that it becomes yours. It's a moment where you actually learn something, not where someone is trying to put something on you that could bounce off.
When I was cooking for those guys at Craft, it's like, all right, you're working a new station. I can teach you only so much.
And
There's only how you're going to learn is it's going to suck for the next 2-3 weeks. It's going to suck for you, and it's going to suck for all of us. Because when you fuck up, all of us suffer because the tickets get behind. We have to refire. But the only way we long-term get better is for you to suck and for us to endure the suckiness together.
So this is all about getting better over the long term and having it feel real for that person, right? Because, if someone were to give you the answers, if your mentor were to just hand you the right decision, it doesn't mean that you're developing a system that makes good decisions. It means you made the next best decision, right? It doesn't actually grow you as a human system that can think.
Which is why I would say this kind of mentorship is not for everybody.
Why?
It's fucking hard.
So do you think people can't handle it because they would be too discouraged? Or it seems amazing to me because it seems like...
But you're a lunatic.
Yeah.
You know, and what I mean by lunatic is
I want this.
You push yourself... You know, when you're telling me you're doing this long distance running crap, I was like, you're a fucking crazy person.
I ran 100 miles last year.
I mean, let's be honest. At what point were you feeling extraordinary amount of pain on that 100 miles?
Like 40 miles.
40. How many?
60 more.
60 more miles you were in extreme discomfort.
But I knew, but here's the thing. I actually think we're getting at something so awesome, Dave, because the reason, if I was doing that alone, without support, without the organization, without knowing that I had the safety of, like, I felt I was within, like, a camp, if you will, where it actually felt like a privilege to be able to be in the wilderness. I was going to get fed every 5 to 25 miles or whatever. My friends were there. They were partying. Like, it was so fun. And I was like, yes, the only goal I have is to keep moving and make the next best decision I can and function at the height of my intelligence right now. And that's the contract we've all signed. And no one expects more of me than that. And I feel that what you're saying in this parenting context and in your professional mentoring context and with regards to the kitchen experiences you've had is that the environments that you've become yourself in, which, yes, took you to a place where you had a turning point, which I want to know what that turning point was, where you realized that winning was not everything for you. I really do want to know if there was a moment. What was that point?
Well, I think, I always told my psychiatrist I need the world to stop. I need the world to stop.
Yeah, we all, oh my God.
I need the world to stop.
What is it, Bo Burnham?
I don't know.
He just wants to die for a year or be dead for a year or something and come back.
But I needed the world to stop, and the world stopped March 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And the pandemic sucked, for so many fucking people. But if there was a silver lining in it for myself personally, and it sucked so fucking hard for everyone in the restaurant business, I had time to reflect. I had time to be a dad. I had time to think about things that I never had time to think about. And I had time not to travel. Mm-hmm. And I think I came to the realization that everything in our culture for the most part for success is about getting to that proverbial mountaintop, the gold medal stand, the whatever. Mm-hmm. What happens when you get there? You do it again? And then again, at what point do you realize maybe like the juice isn't worth the squeeze? And for me, when the world stopped, I realized the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. I didn't want to travel. I didn't want to work the way I used to work. I had a lot of reflection about, you know, how I worked and how I had hurt a lot of people with how I worked in my intensity. And I was like, it sucks. It sucks. You feel bad and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore the way I used to do it. And then, when you're on that single-minded track of excellence for so long, then you start to think about, what about all the other people? You start talking to other people like, what do you do when you come down the mountaintop? When you don't want to do it anymore.
What did they say? And who were they?
Most people don't talk about it. We still don't talk about it.
Who have you talked about it with?
I talked to a lot of other chefs about it. I've talked to people that have retired, whether it's in corporate world or whatever. It's like, everyone's going to forget about you. That's just the truth. All you have to do is look at like Osmondias by Shelley. It's like, that is like a powerful poem because it's fucking true. It's like, everything you think is going to be important isn't important to nobody. I always give the example. It's like, I love Barack Obama to death. How many people think about Barack Obama today? I mean, probably a lot, but like, people fade away. Things that you do fade away. Or I think about Michael Jordan. Love Michael Jordan. I can't believe there are kids today that think he's not as good as other players, because it's like unequivocal to me that he was better than everybody else. It's just that the concept of time, there's no way. These younger people have every right to believe that he's not as good, even though they might be wrong, right? It's just like, you can't make something important for everybody. Things move on. Being the number one restaurant in the world, which I've never been. I mean, some of these I've had realizations earlier than most, where it's like, a lot of my close friends have reached number one restaurant in the world, 3 Michelin stars. And I was like, oh, that sucks. It's like, oh, I want to be the best, but I don't want it like that.
Because
all you can do is go down and be torn apart.
And wow, but that's so sad.
It is sad, but you could also look at it as like a sand mandala, right? Where it's like, you're in the moment and you appreciate the beauty and it is what it is and I did it.
Yeah.
And I was present and now I'm going to do something else.
Yeah.
But if I'm constantly trying to recreate that moment over and over and over again, that's fucking stupid.
Well, and what did that moment even feel like for you? Like your mountaintops?
I only never appreciated any of it. I just was on to the next thing.
Like immediately.
Immediately. It's like an addict, because I'm an addict. I'm an addict for fucking that rush of like, yes, we're in it. Let's go. Let's dig ourselves out of the hole. Let's fucking win. And it's just slow in that sense of like, no one gives a shit. Ultimately, no one fucking cares. How many people remember who won the most gold medals in 1996?
No,
Summer
it doesn't.
Olympics? No one fucking cares.
So then what do you care about?
I think that's when you have to have a complete reassessment, at least I did, of what I wanted to care about. I care about being a father. I care about being someone. I never cared about making money before. Well, now I was like, oh, I have to make enough money to take care of my family. I have to work on being a better partner to my wife. I have to do these things. I have to spend time on myself. I got to do things that were always pushed aside.
Yeah.
So I guess it was in a weird way by being more selfish,
Right, because it's a focus on
me. Because the irony, at least for me, and I can't speak for anyone else, when I was going after these other goals, I thought that I was being selfless. But really what I was doing was trying to convince everybody to care about what I cared about. If that made any sense. And now I'm like, I care very little about any of that. There's still a tinge of addiction to power and to winning. It's very similar to like Lord of the Rings. It's like, once you taste that, you can that's a very intoxicating state of being, of like feeling victory. You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny because you just said that like when you were up there, you just moved on, but there's still that moment of
That rush,
yeah.
feeling, that's got to be close to heroin.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know?
Like the flavor, the taste of winning, or the
It's the name of a
taste,
good book.
the taste of winning. Yeah, it tastes really
Everything,
good.
all you've done,
Yeah,
all you
yeah.
sacrificed, and I have something objective to prove for it.
Surely you also saw people at that moment and how good it looked, like it tasted. Like, do you know what I mean? Because you see people at peaks and it looks
Yeah, it looks like it's a good
awesome.
place to be. But like I was so full of rage and anger. And I'm not, again, I can only speak for me.
That's all we
I'm
want.
sure there's people that have gotten there in a healthy way.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly didn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I had no idea. I'm positive there's a way to get there where you can feel genuine, you know,
Gratitude.
gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know how to, my buddy says it's who said this? It's Renee or Dave, but you're burning clean or you're burning dirty.
What does that mean?
Like you can burn clean energy or you can burn dirty energy.
And dirty energy is like when you're motivated from like a dark place, right?
Yeah.
Or from
and it can be really fucking efficient and successful.
Wow.
Burning dirty. It's easier to burn dirty.
Yeah, what? Because
it's cheaper. It's right there. It's a conscious effort and decision, a moral choice, really, to burn clean because it's harder. It takes way more fucking work.
To like basically push yourself from a place of goodness and generosity and kindness and whatever. I don't know what other words fall in that category.
But you know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
It's hard.
Wow.
But it is possible, but most people don't.
Right. And this is a really good response to someone saying, is it bad to chase a big dream? Because I think a lot of the easy out to this whole conversation is just don't try to go to the mountaintops. And I think what you're saying is that you can go to the mountaintops, but try and find a way to burn clean on your way there.
This metaphor of the mountaintop, I've spent so much time thinking about it.
Yeah.
And this is how I've learned it, at least for myself. Like, I think what Alex Honnold and those free climbers that do what they do without a rope is the dumbest fucking thing in the world, and also like unbelievable at the same time. And it's like, if I do something with my skill set, which I've always felt was average to above average, but it was this work ethic and intensity that caused me to actually, because I believe in cooking at least, hard work is a great equalizer. It will long term be the person you'll be the person that wins over any talent. And I've forced myself to learn how to climb a mountain without any harnesses or ropes, and to do it over and over again. I've learned that in my years, because when you're doing something like that, other people are like, holy shit, take a look at that fucking lunatic climbing a mountain with nothing. You're sort of like, oh, I would like to do that. Especially when it's somebody you wouldn't think that was able to climb that mountain, you know? So a lot of people are like, I want to try to do that. And then they come into the universe and I'm like, let's go, let's do this. And they're like, I can't do what you do. And I'm like so frustrated. What the fuck, man? You just got to do it. They can't do it because they're scared. They recognize or they register the insanity, the stupidity, the futility of doing that way of climbing a mountain.
Wow.
And then it took me some time to realize, like, well, just because somebody doesn't want to climb a mountain that way doesn't mean that there's not other ways to climb the fucking mountain. You could use a road.
That's right. Well,
you could use ropes. There's other ways to get to the mountaintop. It doesn't have to be the dumbest fucking way humanly possible.
I mean, that to me relates back to the clean and dirty of it all.
And just because somebody didn't do it the hard way, you can never compare pain and suffering, and I would even say to some degree that earned trauma is not like, it's not a competition.
Right. You're
It's
saying
relative to each individual.
yes. You said you want to prove people wrong. Who do you want to prove wrong?
Yeah, I mean, everyone that says you can't do something, it's just another, weight on the scale of the thing you're fighting against. It's like, I will prove you wrong. At all costs, I will prove you fucking wrong. And that's how fucking crazy I can get. The best way to get me to do something is you can't do it. I was like, oh yeah? Go fuck yourself. I'm going to fucking do it. And I will do it really fucking well. I may not get there immediately. But the next thing you realize is I will have gotten there. You'll be like, how the fuck did that happen?
Mm-hmm. And this is really interesting because it directly responds to your worldview about how these mentors have mentored you, which is that they never said you couldn't do it, can do it, must do it. They just gave you space to figure that out for yourself. I think to wrap up, I want to know, what do you tell yourself in the moment when you said there's a moment where it might not work, right? But you pick yourself up and you put yourself back together and you keep going. What is the voice in your head?
It's going to fucking hurt.
That's what makes you keep going? You just
no, it's
say
like
it.
You got to process. You got to process how much it's going to fucking hurt. It's going to suck. It's also the idea that, like, I'm never going to do, I can't do it again anymore. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. You tell yourself over, at least I do, I'm never going to do this again. And I'm so fucking stupid. No. And then, for whatever reason, you're like, let's go. Let's give it another shot.
And is it that, but that's the moment that I'm interested in. Is it the moment that you realize, like, this is who I am, or I still have that want to prove people wrong and it's stronger than the feeling of pain of losing?
To me, it's getting to a point where you're just like, it's really the only true independent choice I have against all the odds, against the shitty scenario that I'm in, is to believe, even though it might be the tiniest of percentages of chance, that I believe at some point, in some scenario, in some dimension, that it can actually turn out okay. Against all the odds and against all the statistics, that I think that I can do it. Even if it goes away for a second, I can do it. And that is, like, weirdly a liberating choice.
I feel like it's the ultimate way to honor yourself.
Well, it's a big fuck you to everything in a good way.
Yeah, but it's it's the hugest act of grace to yourself to go back in there when the odds are actually completely against you.
I mean, I'll end it on this. It was like, we put it on the cover of the book, but, like, I always had a hard time with understanding the myth of Sisyphus, at least from Albert Camus' perspective. Hard time. And it's for such a good writer, it's a horrible fucking, treatise on mental health and absurdity. So, like, I don't recommend anybody read it, but this is how I internalize it. Sisyphus is punished by the gods because he tricked the gods to forever roll a giant stone ball up a hill, only to reach the top of the hill. And when he does that, he has to repeat it in eternity. And here's the thing. He has no choice because the gods have told him, you're going to do this in perpetuity, infinity, forever. I got to do this no matter what. I have no fucking choice. This sucks. I hate my existence. This is the worst possible existence in all of existence. He has a choice to willingly want to push the fucking rock up the hill. That is his choice. They can't break him. He's like, to actually know how stupid it is and still do it with all of your might and all of your soul and integrity to push that boulder up the hill with everything he's got. Every fucking time. With the best intention.
Do you think it's an act for himself or for them?
I think it's a giant fuck you.
Which I think is for you.
Yeah.
I think a fuck you is for yourself. Yeah. And I think that, like, we'll wrap this up, but I feel that what I've really gotten out of all of this is you've said so many, like, moments of, like, this is crazy and da-da-da-da, but there's like a silver lining underneath it all that is like, it's like the deepest. I feel that it's like the deepest, that fuck you to people is actually like, there's a side of it that's actually quite,
Well, yeah, it's why I love the underdog.
yeah, it's the underdog.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing is when the underdog fucking wins. It is the fucking best.
For the dog too.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's for the dog too.
There's nothing more beautiful when like the person, the organization, the team that's not supposed to quote unquote wins.
Yeah.
It's the fucking best.
It's like good for the universe.
Yeah.
Cool. Amazing. Well, I feel good. Matt, how do you feel?
Thanks, guys.
If you're enjoying Mentor Buffet, follow Voicing Change for more inspirational and truly life-affirming content from shows like Soul Boom, The Proof, Feel Better, Live More, and the Rich Roll podcast. Just go to voicingchange.media. That's voicingchange.media for a beautiful selection of productive and positive shows.